Have you ever felt like there just aren't enough hours in the day? Like no matter how hard you try, your to-do list never gets smaller and your dreams seem further away? You're not alone. Many people, from students to CEOs, feel the same way. The truth is, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, but it's how we choose to manage them that determines how much we accomplish. Time management isn't just about keeping busy. It's about being productive, focused, and intentional with how we use those precious hours. Let me start with a story. I once met a young man named Raj, a fresh graduate, eager to conquer the world. He had big dreams and ambitions to succeed, but there was one issue. He was always scrambling. He was constantly running from one task to the next, never taking the time to sit down and prioritize. His day would begin with checking his phone, scrolling through social media, and replying to messages. By the time he finally got to work, hours had passed, and the day was half gone. He felt overwhelmed and frustrated because, despite being busy, he wasn't getting closer to his goals. This is a classic example of poor time management. Raj wasn't focused on what really mattered. He was distracted by things that didn't align with his bigger goals, and he was letting time slip away without realizing its true value. You see, time is not just a measure of passing moments. It's a finite resource. You can't make more of it, no matter how hard you try. And so, every moment spent on unimportant tasks or distractions is a moment lost. This is where the power of focus comes in. Time management isn't just about scheduling your tasks. It's about deciding where to put your attention. If you want to achieve anything meaningful, you have to focus on the right things. Time is an invisible force. It's something that everyone has, yet we often feel as though we don't have enough of it. Every day, we are given the same 24 hours. But the difference lies in how we choose to use that time. How do some people manage to accomplish so much, while others constantly feel like they're running out of time? How can you go from feeling overwhelmed and rushed to having control over your life? The answer lies in effective time management and the power of focus. Let me take you back to a story from my early days when I was just starting out in my career. I was juggling a full-time job, trying to balance relationships, and working on side projects. At first, everything seemed manageable, but it didn't take long before the chaos set in. I'd find myself waking up late, rushing through my tasks, missing deadlines, and then feeling like I wasn't accomplishing anything meaningful. It was a cycle that I didn't know how to break. And I'm sure many of you can relate, feeling like your time slips away, always running from one task to the next. This experience is common for so many people, especially those of us who try to do everything at once. The truth is, it's not just about being busy. It's about being intentional with your time. Time management is about prioritizing, about choosing what matters and letting go of distractions. And it all starts with the realization that time is your most precious asset. You cannot get it back, no matter how hard you try. Think of it like this. Imagine you have a jar, and you're trying to fill it with rocks, pebbles, and sand. The rocks represent your most important tasks, the things that will move you closer to your long-term goals. The pebbles are the secondary tasks that are important but not urgent. And the sand is everything else, those distractions and smaller tasks that fill up your time but don't really help you move forward. If you fill the jar with sand first, you won't have room for the rocks. But if you start with the rocks, you can fit everything else around them. This is how time management works. You have to start with the most important things, focus on them, and then fit in everything else. If you fill your day with small tasks that don't matter, you'll find that there's no room left for the big things, the things that will really make a difference in your life. Now, I know that sounds simple enough, right? Just focus on the important things. But in reality, it's not always that easy. We live in a world of constant distractions. We've got emails, notifications, phone calls, and people pulling us in every direction. If we're not careful, it's easy to get caught up in the noise and lose sight of what's important. But here's the thing, you have to learn to prioritize. You have to know what's worth your time and what's not. This is something I had to learn the hard way, through a real-life example. A few years ago, I was juggling multiple projects. I was working a full-time job while also running a side business, and I wanted to keep up with my social life too. At first, I tried to do everything. I said yes to every meeting, every call, every request that came my way. It felt like I was always being pulled in different directions. But eventually, I realized something important. I was spreading myself too thin. I was exhausted, stressed, and not making progress on the things that mattered most to me. So, I made a conscious decision. I started saying no. I prioritized my tasks. I began to distinguish between the urgent and the important. Urgent tasks might demand your immediate attention, but they don't always align with your long-term goals. Important tasks are those that will get you closer to where you want to be. And sometimes they don't scream for your attention the way urgent ones do. For example, I once had a friend who invited me to a last-minute party on a weekend when I had a deadline looming over my head. In the past, I would have dropped everything to attend, thinking that I'd be letting my friend down. But this time, I said no. I focused on completing the project, and by doing so, I was able to meet the deadline and also celebrate the success of finishing on time. I learned that sometimes saying no is the most powerful thing you can do for your goals. Prioritization doesn't just mean choosing between tasks. It means choosing between distractions and your goals. If you want to be successful, you need to cut out the things that don't align with your vision. This is where focus comes in. Now, let's talk about prioritization. It's easy to say you should focus on what matters most, but how do you actually figure out what those things are? I had a friend named Sarah who struggled with this for a long time. She was always busy, running from one meeting to the next, attending every social event, and checking her nails every few minutes. But despite all this busyness, she never felt like she was getting closer to her dreams. One day, I asked her what her most important goals were. She paused and said, "I'm not sure. I have so many things I want to do, but I don't know what to focus on first." That moment made me realize something. If we don't define our goals clearly, we can easily get caught up in everything and accomplish nothing. So I encouraged Sarah to sit down and really think about what she wanted to achieve. Not just the surface level goals, like I want to be successful or I want to get rich, but what were the deep goals that aligned with her values and purpose. For Sarah, it was about building a business that would allow her to help others while giving her more freedom. Once she had clarity on her bigger goal, it became much easier for her to prioritize the tasks that would help her move in that direction. It's not enough to just know what you want. You have to break it down into actionable steps and make those steps your priorities. I mean this. It's not enough to just know what you want. You have to break it down into actionable steps and make those steps your priorities. When Sarah started focusing on what truly mattered, building her business, she found that the rest of her life started to fall into place. She wasn't wasting time on things that didn't matter. She was focused, intentional, and moving forward. But here's the catch. In today's world, distractions are everywhere. The notifications on your phone, the constant flow of emails, the pressure to say yes to every opportunity that comes your way, they're all competing for your time. They're all competing for your time. And if you're not careful, they can rob you of your focus. You need to learn how to say no. When I was working on my side projects, I learned this the hard way. At first, I tried to juggle everything: work, personal commitments, and side projects. But I soon realized that I was doing none of them well. I was stretched too thin. So I started saying no to things that didn't align with my goals. I stopped attending every meeting. I stopped checking my email every 5 minutes. And most importantly, I stopped saying yes to things that didn't contribute to my vision. This doesn't mean you should become a hermit and shut everyone out, but it does mean that you need to be deliberate about where you invest your time. Ask yourself, does this task or activity bring me closer to my goals? If the answer is no, it's time to let go and make room for what truly matters. Let's talk about focus for a moment. Focus is not just about getting things done. It's about getting the right things done. If time management is the foundation of productivity, focus is the engine that drives it. Think of the greats, whether it's Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, or Oprah Winfrey. They didn't achieve their success by being busy all the time. They achieved it by putting their energy into what mattered most. They were laser focused. They knew how to say no to distractions and say yes to what truly aligned with their goals. Take Elon Musk, for instance. He's known for being relentless in his focus. When he was starting SpaceX, he didn't just focus on launching rockets. He focused on solving the problem of making space travel affordable. That was his big picture. He didn't let the small stuff get in the way. Even when people told him that it was impossible, he stayed focused on his mission. Similarly, Oprah Winfrey, one of the most successful women in television history, is known for her deep focus. She had a vision of helping people share their stories, and she stuck to it, despite challenges and setbacks. She didn't spread herself too thin. She didn't try to be everything to everyone. Instead, she stayed focused on what mattered, empowering others through conversation and storytelling. So how do you develop that kind of focus? The first step is to block out distractions. If you're working on something that requires deep thought or creativity, put your phone on silent, close unnecessary tabs, and create an environment where you can fully immerse yourself in the task at hand. It sounds simple, but it works. When you eliminate distractions, you give your mind the space it needs to perform at its best. The second step is setting specific, achievable goals. If you don't know what you're aiming for, it's easy to lose focus. You can't hit a target if you don't know where it is. Break down your big goals into smaller, manageable tasks and focus on one at a time. Finally, remember this. Focus isn't about working harder. It's about working smarter. You don't need to work 16-hour days to be successful. What you need is to put in your best effort during the time you are working, and make sure that effort is directed at the most important tasks. When you focus on those tasks, you will be amazed at how much progress you can make in a short amount of time. We've talked about managing your time and prioritizing your tasks, but now let's talk about focus, the key to making real progress. Time management without focus is like trying to drive a car with one flat tire. It's not going to work. Focus is the engine that powers your productivity. Focus is all about concentration and keeping your attention on the task at hand. But it's not just about avoiding distractions. It's about putting in the right kind of effort. There's a difference between being busy and being productive. We've all been there, sitting at our desks, checking emails, scrolling through social media, but not really accomplishing anything. That's not focus. Focus is about diving deep into the task, blocking out everything else, and giving it your full attention. Think about an athlete training for the Olympics. They don't just show up and go through the motions. They train with laser-like focus. Every day they put in the work, even when it's tough, even when they're tired. They know that the sacrifices they make now will pay off in the future. One of the best examples of focus I've seen is from the life of Steve Jobs. When Jobs was developing the first iPhone, he wasn't concerned with what everyone else was doing. He wasn't distracted by the competition. He was singularly focused on creating a product that would change the world. His focus, combined with his dedication and attention to detail, led to one of the most revolutionary products of our time. Focus is a muscle, and just like any muscle, it needs to be trained. If you find it difficult to concentrate, start small. Commit to working on a single task for 20 to 30 minutes without distractions. Gradually, you can extend that time, and you'll find that your focus improves. But you have to practice. You have to put in the effort to keep your attention on the task at hand. Ultimately, time management and focus are about taking control of your life. They're about making sure that every day, every hour, every minute counts. You have the power to make your time work for you, but it requires intention, discipline, and a willingness to say no to the things that don't matter.